Although we probably should touch on the issue of gender, maybe, and I mean gender meaning there's two, the male and the
Yeah.
female, as it relates to this. I don't think we should miss that this is coming from a female priestess. I think this is relevant in the sense that this appeal to pity, ad misericordiam, right? The appeal to the emotions. I mean, it is something that I think you reference an article in here by Joe Rigney.
He's coming out with a book on the abuse of empathy. And so let me set this up a little bit for everyone, because as a logic professor, and you're a great student of logic, we always go over fallacies. And a fallacy means that your argument doesn't guarantee the truth of the conclusion. Informal fallacies particularly look and sound like good arguments, but they're not. And so two very common ones are appeal to fear and appeal to pity. And both of them are relevant here. I'll mention just briefly appeal to fear. Here's how it comes out. You do what I want to do, or I'm going to call you a racist. That's terrifying. No one wants to be called that. I'll do whatever you want. Don't call me that in public, please. So that's appeal to fear, and it's been used for the last 25 years against conservatives. But the one that this article is about, appeal to pity, says appeals to your emotions and our disposition to show compassion. Because I think Christians and Americans more generally are very compassionate people. And so if you don't believe that, just go traveling somewhere and go outside of resort towns and see what the rest of the world is like. I think you'll come back and say, Americans are very kind, very compassionate people. But the appeal to pity works then. Your enemies can use that against you. And they make it seem as if any obeying of law is cruel. And any personal responsibility is cruel. And so you always want an excuse for breaking the law or not turning in your assignment. Hey, I know I'm supposed to get this assignment in on time. Now, the truth is I was at the Taylor Swift concert, but I'm going to tell you my grandma's sick and I couldn't get my assignment in on time. And so they use your pity to say, yeah, I would hate, your grandma's sick. That's terrible. I'd hate to give you a bad grade for that reason. Let me give you some more time. So in this case, what they do is they say Jesus taught us to be empathetic. And empathy means you feel what the other person's feeling. And it's not wrong to have empathy. We're talking right now about the abuse of empathy. Any good thing can be abused. But in this case, what they say is Jesus was empathetic. He wanted us to love our neighbors. Therefore, and they insert some political claim that does not follow from those premises. And they usually do it. The appeal to pity always works by not giving you the full context of personal responsibility. So I moved my children to a country knowing it was illegal, knowing that it's very possible we would get deported. But then this priestess comes in just at the end part and says, look how mean President Trump was. Well, what about the parents who put their children in that situation? Wasn't that mean also? So it only looks at a fraction of the story and tries to get you riled up. And unfortunately, it works against young, naive Christians who are usually idealistic, have strong feelings going on. And so you can move them that way rather than through sound reasoning.
Yeah, I mean, and it does sort of devolve into, a sort of cheap grace. I mean, to use Bonhoeffer's term. I mean, if there's no law, if there's no enforcement of the law, then at what point, what is mercy? What is mercy in light of, right? And I mean, you made the point in the article, and I did too. It kind of, I mean, you can reduce the person who's broken the law down to something like a non-moral agent. Right, where they have like just no responsibility, right?
They're just tossed to and fro in the world.
Right, and they're just they have no choice whatsoever. Which this is such a. On the other hand, you get the same sort of group always talking about agency and having your voice and speaking your. Well, I mean, these are. I mean, and that, of course, the issue's very complex. So you can't look at everything case by case because we're talking at a national level here, right? And there certainly are going to be some instances where you will extend mercy given certain conditions and circumstances. But just a blanket appeal without any reference to, the setting, the general problem that exists, right? And that something, a law has been broken, and the law is no respecter of persons, right?
But you mentioned that this comes out of their anthropology, their view of man.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things the things that will crumble as progressive theology crumbles is its view of God and its view of man and its soteriology, which kind of relates the two. So the view of man is that everybody, with the exception of white Christian conservatives, has good intentions at heart. They just want a better, world for themselves, for their children. They're just working hard to get that. And maybe that's true for some people, but it doesn't seem to be true for other people. And so they basically project their understanding onto reality, demand that we accept that, or we're being mean. But the truth is that to find out people's intentions, you've got to ask them, and you've got to get past the first level answer, because we all give the best answer first. Well, I'm just here to help America and my kids. You got to get back and look a little bit further into that and say, yeah, but at some point you made the choice to say, I'm going to break America's laws and put my own children at risk. What was going on in that point in your mind? And the liberal theology has never done that. They've always painted us as innocent and God as the lawgiver as mean, and Jesus steps between us to reconcile us, rather than John 3:16 says that God so loved the world. He's not cruel or distant. He's the one who loved us, and he's the one who sent his only son.